This September will mark 15 years since the 9/11 attacks, and 15 years later, we still cannot seem to make everybody happy and secure at the airport. Now, a Blockbuster report last summer found major flaws with TSA security screening. 96% of agents studied let people pass security with weapons, including potential bombs and guns. TSA's response: make airport checks more thorough and therefore more slower. They also added staff and training while waiting for more funding, which has yet to come. The result? Even longer delays at screening stations with longer lines and more people missing flights, more angry people. But those lines and delays have now gotten so bad, the port authorities complaining and considering dumping the TSA altogether for private screeners if things do not improve soon. Dominic, you ready to farm out to a private company instead of the TSA if it means you get on your flight sooner?
I don't know, Richard. This is a tough one. It just seems if we could improve the attitude of the workers no, I'm serious, that do these jobs. I'm like, sir, my plane, I don't care. You know, my man, I got issues with my man, and you're going to stand here all day. I mean, you know, but when you turn stuff sometimes over to the private sector, they make it 3 times worse sometimes. So I don't know.
I just finished traveling. I just got back from international travel, and it's a tough job being a TSA agent. But in Europe and Canada, they have private security companies. San Francisco has a private security company. So there are instances where these things have worked. The real issue is people say there's a conflict of interest. The TSA makes the regulations, and then they enforce those regulations on themselves. And so they say that's an inherent difficulty for them.
So which would you choose?
I would say do a trial. First, I'd go through the literature and find out all the data. What's the results in these other places where they've tried it? Let's learn from those situations. Maybe do a trial program and see if it works. So I have an open mind about it. I'm not locked into one or the other yet because those lines are getting longer.
I don't want a private entity because then you wind up with profit motives, and so you wind up cutting corners or cutting costs or hiring lower caliber people to try to make more profit. This is one of these areas. I'm a believer in government. I believe government can and often does great things, but this drives me crazy because when you have the areas where the government directly interacts with people and it screws up, puts a pox on everybody's impression of government. So when the IRS oversteps its bounds or you know, handles things badly, or you get too many people in the criminal justice system, or the TSA doesn't do its job well, or people at DMV don't work particularly well, that makes everybody hate government and gives validity to the people who criticize government. So spend a little money and make it work better.
DMV is the government I know.
Yeah, please don't mention DMV. Don't go there, please.
Yeah, I agree with the congressman. I think you do a trial period. I think also on security matters, you really have to have government watching over it. In this case, I mean,
But isn't that security, which is when you're going through the gates, when they do the detection and whatever else? That's security, and that's the problem.
It's security. I mean,
it's when we go to the gate and then like you wait for, you see the line going around. You're like, couldn't you put through a few more metal detectors or whatever? Couldn't we like break this up? You don't have to be a rocket scientist.
Yeah, certainly some private sector management.
Is that the Republicans in the Congress didn't want to fund TSA, and you know they said they didn't believe that government could work, and they decided to hold back the money to make sure government couldn't work. They did that with the IRS. They did that with TSA. So this is really a lot, and I'm not being partisan about it. I was there, and this is what I saw. They wanted to defund government, and the chickens are coming home to roost.
God, there's a better way to do this. We just have to figure out what it is.
You know what? I know what it is. When you're looking, there's 3 people and there's 280 people trying to get through that, you know, bottleneck. You're like, come on. It's like having 1 cashier instead of a few more. I will say this. If you go to LaGuardia, you go to Newark, you go to JFK, that's what they're talking about here. They're talking about is it time to go the private route. And I hear Andrew's concerns. If all of a sudden you want to cut back and pay guys less and do this and you get lower quality, what happens next? I got to tell you, this is a tough one. I'm really curious how New York goes. But as I mentioned, a tease here for later on in the week. We got the big meeting on Thursday. Paul Ryan, Republican leader, is going to sit down with Trump. We'll learn more there. And obviously, we've got some important cases as well on Thursday. Dean Skelos will find the sentencing as well. So a lot coming up on RFL this week. Gentlemen, I certainly appreciate all the time tonight here. We got local headlines on the other side of the break. Stay with me. I'll be right back.